say one more thing about that before you
No, yeah,
jump
go
into
ahead.
this question. But ultimately, when we define what our personal style is and marry it with a professional style, I know we're going to get more into that, but it ultimately helps us show up as the most confident, authentic versions of ourselves. And that makes us more productive. It makes us engage better with people. With the people that we work with, we have polled them, and 82% of them say that they hesitate to turn on their cameras because they are unhappy with how they are showing up on camera. I'm sure, Rachel, you look fantastic in this interview, but would you have hesitated to turn on your camera if you didn't put a little bit of thought and intention into dressing today?
I'm like, so I always turn on my camera, but because I always turn on my camera, I also always think about how I'm showing up, not only to external face it, like on a talk show. Of course, I'm always thoughtful about how I show up, and how people will be perceiving me. Obviously, I'm obsessed with that. Um,
Right. Of course.
but yes,
Yeah.
I also think, and this is actually the question that's coming up next, but like, the differences between walking into a room in person versus connecting virtually, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I always am thoughtful about the mess, because sometimes I join, I look at my schedule and I have team calls or internal team calls, and I'm like, I can be a little more casual. It's okay.
Mhm. Yeah. But if we, to your point, our conversation would be so different if you did not turn on your
Oh gosh,
camera. It would be
absolutely.
very awkward. I was on and you were off, and it's just incredibly awkward. But 82% of people are either doing this or hesitating to engage virtually because they don't feel confident in their appearance on camera. And those things are so
Mhm.
fixable. We have very simple tools that people can
Yeah.
apply to discover their personal style and to
Yeah,
express it.
absolutely. So here's an interesting kind of question I had when it comes to some of those professional, um, virtual environments, or even in-person environments, right? Like, I think especially because of what we were discussing earlier in terms of these like different expectations generationally in terms of how you should show up at the office, like companies, and this is also kind of part of the question. Do you feel like companies have stepped back a little bit in being like, I don't know, like, I don't know what, like, you wear whatever you want to wear, or like not, like, what happens when companies are either maybe over defining what you should be wearing versus, or not defining it at all?
Yeah, so we're finding there are so many companies that are just dropping their dress code because they don't want to deal with it. And what that does as a result is it makes people very
Mm,
confused. In our workshops and our programming that we do with people, the most common question we're getting is it even appropriate to wear jeans in the workplace? Is it appropriate to wear sneakers with suits? Is it appropriate to wear my hair this way? And these are things that in the past, dress codes have been very um, extreme and limiting as far as personal expression. And post the pandemic, there's so much more room for flexibility. But we're coming back, and these dress codes are not being redefined and open. We're just asking our manager, for example, is this appropriate? What do you think? And every manager has a different style. We're all from different generations. As you mentioned, someone that is just entering the workplace versus someone that is closer to retirement. We are having very different ideas of what is professional. And so identifying what is
mhm.
appropriate is incredibly important. And that's something that we help
Okay,
companies do.
right. Because I feel like that topic must be a minefield for most leaders.
Yes, for sure. Well, especially if they don't have a guide to reference and they're just going off of their own professional experience. Like, I wouldn't wear this, but you
Right.
go for it. Or I would, I don't know, maybe be cautious about this color when really, if it's in a guide, it gives people clear expectations of what's expected, how to thrive in this culture,
Can
and
you
so
give
on.
us an example of like a recent dress code that you've helped a company establish?
Yeah. So, for example, smart casual. So, what is smart casual, and like where can you for what does that mean? Does it mean jeans? Does it mean elevated slacks or casual slacks? So just defining what that is for the company culture, because a lot of tech
Yeah.
companies, for example, they are way more casual. And if you are showing up, for example, in the way that finance sectors
Yeah.
dressing, it's very inappropriate. So defining what that culture is and implementing that into the dress code, that's ultimately what we're doing for
Right.
companies.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. You were going to say something else.
No, so I would just say giving people the inspiration to define what their personal style is within the
Right.
context of their culture and their expectations. That's ultimately what we do
Right,
as
right.
well.
So you would come into a company, you would consult, like you would start with the company values and the company environment and the company expectations, and then
Mhm.
you could help people understand how they can kind of flourish within that. Is that the idea?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly, exactly. So helping people dress professionally and personally within their cultural
Oh
context.
my God. Every company needs to have you in, Jenny. I just feel like it's such a tricky topic.
It is,
Like,
absolutely.
I remember this was pre-pandemic and I was working in a fundraising role. So I, like, as a professional ballet dancer, our dress code was like leotards and tights, you know? And then I went from that
Yeah,
to like working at Harvard in their fundraising department. And to me,
very
yeah, like
different.
putting like jeans and like a t-shirt on was like, like, wow, that's like very dressed up compared to like my leotard and tights. So it was a really interesting transition. Um, and especially in these like fun, I remember I then moved to New England Conservatory, and like dress code was a big part of some of the conversations I would have with our VP, because she was like, you have to be very aware of what you're wearing with donors, because you can't just be schlepping around in like casual clothing when they're wearing like Hermes, whatever, like, but you also can't be
So
like
true.
up staging them, like you have to be like, it's like demure and
Absolutely.
very mindful. It's just like,
Yeah. Well, and it's showing a level of respect to whoever you're
yes,
communicating with, whether that's a client, a potential donor. You definitely have to dress that part to communicate how serious you are about your job and your role and how proficient you are at
right.
it too. If you're coming in dressing like a dancer, which is super appropriate on the
Yeah.
dance floor and very respectable there. However, that does not translate as well to a fundraising
Yeah.
department. So
Scandalous.
yeah, you definitely jumped